Imagine a world where angels descend from heaven, seduce human women, and spawn giant bloodthirsty monsters. These aren't ordinary creatures. They tower 450 feet tall, the height of a 40-story skyscraper. They devour everything in their path, consuming all food meant for humanity. And when that isn't enough, they turn on mankind as cannibalistic predators. Sorcery and warfare are taught to humanity by rogue celestial beings. The earth plunges into violence and chaos. This sounds like the plot of a blockbuster fantasy film, but it's actually from an ancient scripture, once revered by early Jews and Christians, only to be banned from the Bible and lost to history for over 1,000 years. Welcome to MythVision's Banned, Lost, and Forgotten Scriptures. I'm your host, Derek, and today we're uncovering the shocking lost visions of 1st Enoch, or 1 Enoch. A book so controversial, so mythically rich, and so influential that its fingerprints can still be found throughout Christian and Jewish theology, even though most believers have never heard of it. Before we dive in, be sure to subscribe to catch all of our episodes exploring the ancient text that shaped religious history, but didn't make the final cut. Trust me, after hearing about celestial rebellions, antediluvian giants, and cosmic journeys beyond the stars, you'll want to see what else we uncover. Let's start with some historical context. 1st Enoch, also called the Ethiopic Book of Enoch, is a collection of ancient Jewish writings attributed to Enoch, the mysterious great-grandfather of Noah, who appears briefly in Genesis 5:24. The Bible tells us only that Enoch walked with God, then he was no more, because God took him. This tantalizing verse suggests Enoch never died, but was taken directly to heaven, making him the perfect candidate to receive divine secrets. As scholar Bart Ehrman notes, who better to pen an apocalypse? A man who actually lived with God above. This isn't some medieval fan fiction. Fragments of 1 Enoch were discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls, confirming parts of it were already circulating by 200 to 150 BCE, centuries before Christianity emerged. Written primarily in Aramaic, it was one of the most popular Jewish writings in the final 2 centuries before the Common Era. You see, 1 Enoch isn't a single story, but a compilation of 5 sections. The Book of the Watchers, which is chapters 1 through 36, the Book of Parables, chapters 37 to 71, the Astronomical Book, which is chapter 72 to 82, the Book of Dreams, chapter 83 to 90, and the Epistle of Enoch, chapters 90 to 108. Scholar George W. E. Nicholsberg explains that these are Jewish apocalyptic traditions that date from the last 3 centuries before the Common Era. What makes 1 Enoch particularly fascinating is how it expands on a mere 4 verses from Genesis 6, 1 through 4. A cryptic biblical passage about sons of God mating with human women. James Vanderkam, a leading Enoch scholar, observes that the book seizes upon a hero from the Hebrew Bible and expands upon scriptural stories about him. In other words, the authors of 1 Enoch took one of the Bible's most mysterious stories and blew it up into a dramatic cosmic saga. And what a saga it is. You know, when we look at the Book of Enoch, it's really about humanity being trapped in cycles we can't control. The Watchers fall, chaos spreads, human beings inherit patterns of corruption and struggle. Enoch steps in as this visionary who sees through the chains, offering a way to break free. And honestly, that ancient theme still hits home, because let's face it, we all wrestle with cycles of our own. Not fallen angels, of course, but stress eating, midnight cravings, and habits that keep us stuck. And personally, for my health, that's where I found Hypnosio to be a game changer. It's not a fad diet or some extreme workout plan. It's a self-hypnotherapy app that goes much deeper, working on the subconscious patterns that actually keep us in those cycles. Whether you're a parent juggling life and sneaking snacks when stressed, a professional fighting cravings at the desk, or someone who's just tired of the yo-yo of dieting, Hypnosio is for you. It's about creating a healthy relationship with food without obsessing over every calorie. The real power here is that Hypnosio doesn't just mask the problem. It literally helps rewire your brain, restructuring neural pathways, breaking subconscious barriers, and building emotional resilience. That's what makes food stop controlling you. I can tell you firsthand it's changed how I relate to food. My late night snacking is almost gone. And when I do reach for something, I'm choosing healthier options naturally without forcing it. No rules, no calorie counting, just freedom from that old cycle, those chains. And it's not just me. Clinical studies show hypnotherapy helps people lose twice as much weight compared to traditional methods. And here's what's wild, 94% keep it off long term. Plus it only takes a few minutes a day, no drastic life overhaul required. So if you're ready to step out of those cycles, the same way Enoch envisioned humanity escaping the grip of the Watchers, check out Hypnosio. Click the link below to get 15% off your first plan. This is one of those rare approaches that actually lasts. Now, back to Enoch, because just like Hypnosio gives us tools to break destructive patterns today, Enoch's story reveals how ancient people imagined breaking free from cosmic cycles of corruption. Let's get back into the text and see how his vision reshaped the world of early Judaism and beyond. The first section, the Book of the Watchers, plunges us into a world before the flood. 200 angels called the Watchers are assigned to observe humanity from the heavens, led by their chief Shemi-Haza. These celestial beings look down from their lofty posts and become infatuated with human women. Imagine a midnight conspiracy on Mount Hermon, where Shemi-Haza gathers his fellow angels and says,
"Come, let us descend and take wives from among the beautiful daughters of men."
All 200 swear a binding oath to descend to earth in defiance of divine order, driven by forbidden desire. Down they come, these Watchers falling in every sense. They marry human women and father children, but these offspring are monstrous. They are the Nephilim giants of terrifying size and strength. One Enoch gives a jaw-dropping detail. These giants stood 300 cubits tall, roughly 450 feet. Picture creatures the size of modern skyscrapers stomping through ancient villages. These hybrid offspring quickly consume all of humanity's food supply, and when that's not enough, they turn to eating actual people. The text graphically describes how the giants ate the flesh of men and drank the blood, spreading terror across the earth. But the horror doesn't stop there. While their giant sons wreak havoc, the fallen Watchers corrupt humanity in subtle ways. They begin teaching humans forbidden knowledge, arts and technologies that mortals were never meant to possess. The chief Watcher, Azazel, taught men to make swords, knives, shields, and bracelets, ornaments, and eyeshadow, effectively introducing warfare and seduction into primeval society. Another angel teaches enchantments and root cutting, essentially witchcraft and occult medicine. Others teach astrology, the tracking of stars, and various forbidden arts. The earth becomes overrun by giant bullies and washed in violence. One Enoch says, "Men perished, they cried, and their cry went up to heaven. Humanity stands on the brink of extinction." The situation grows so dire that the archangels in heaven, Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, and Raphael, hear the cries of humans and bring humanity's case before God. And then, enter our protagonist, Enoch himself. Unlike the violent Watchers, Enoch is a righteous human who walks with God. The text describes him as a scribe living among the people. God calls upon Enoch to act as intermediary. The righteous scribe receives a divine mission. He must confront the fallen watchers and deliver God's judgment decree to them. Picture this extraordinary scene. A mere mortal approaching these once mighty angels to pronounce their doom. In an ironic twist, the watchers become terrified supplicants. They beg Enoch to write a petition to God on their behalf, pleading for mercy. Showing compassion, Enoch intercedes for the watchers. He goes into the wilderness, sits by the waters of Dan, and recites their petition to heaven. But when Enoch falls asleep, he receives visions of judgment. God's message is clear. No forgiveness will be granted. Enoch must return and deliver the bad news. The petition is denied, and they will be bound in darkness until the final judgment. When Enoch delivers this verdict, the once proud angels break into wailing in fear. Following this, Enoch is shown why God must act decisively. A prophetic vision reveals that a great flood will cleanse the earth of the giants' corruption. Technically, this is the untold backstory to Noah's flood. According to 1 Enoch, the flood wasn't merely punishment for human sin. It was divine warfare to rid the world of monstrous offspring created by rebellious angels. In the end, the Watchers are bound in chains in a dark abyss called Tartarus to await final punishment, and their giant sons perish in the flood. But there's a chilling postscript. 1 Enoch explains that when the giants died, their evil spirits remained on earth. Those disembodied spirits of the Nephilim became the demons that would torment humanity thereafter. The origin of evil spirits absent from the Bible itself. This innovative idea had immense impact. Later Jewish and Christian demonology adopted it to explain where demons come from. In other words, the ghosts of giant monsters became the demons of later legend. The saga doesn't end with the Watcher's punishment. After delivering judgment, Enoch is rewarded with extraordinary journeys beyond this world. In chapters 17 through 36, Enoch is taken up by angelic guides on a grand tour of the cosmos, a sort of ancient cosmic road trip. He travels to the ends of the earth and sees the storehouses of the elements, the treasuries of the winds, the cornerstone of the earth, the waters of the flood, and the fiery prison where the Watchers are confined. He even travels to the underworld. In 1 Enoch 22, Enoch sees the realm of the dead, Sheol, with multiple compartments, a visionary mapping of where human souls await judgment. The righteous and wicked dead are separated in different hollows, anticipating reward or punishment. Enoch's travels also reveal celestial mechanics. The astronomical book reads like a mysterious ancient science text. Angels teach Enoch the movements of the sun, moon, and stars, the length of days, the calendar, the names of cosmic gates. He's shown a solar calendar of 364 days, considered more righteous than the lunar calendar. For ancient readers, this was esoteric wisdom, a glimpse of God's blueprint of creation. But the most thrilling vision comes in the Book of Parables, chapters 37 to 71. Here, Enoch witnesses the throne of the head of days, God, surrounded by countless angels. Then he beholds one like a human, variously called the Chosen One, the Righteous One, and most significantly, the Son of Man, who will sit on a throne of glory beside God and execute justice. Enoch asks an angel about this mysterious Son of Man and learns this figure existed before creation and will be the light of the nations, the hope of the righteous. For anyone familiar with Christian Gospels, the parallels are striking. This pre-Christian Jewish text describes a majestic Son of Man coming on a throne, language later used for Christ. Even more surprising, at the climax of the parables, Enoch himself is identified with this Son of Man figure. A plot twist where the humble scribe is revealed to be the future messianic judge. If you're wondering why this bizarre book matters, consider this. Few texts shaped early Christian thought as much as 1 Enoch did. Even though it never made the canonical Hebrew Bible, 1 Enoch profoundly influenced New Testament doctrines about the Messiah, the Son of Man, demonology, resurrection, and final judgment. Where do demons come from? The New Testament assumes their existence, but never explains their origin. Early Christians read 1 Enoch and found their answer. Demons are the disembodied spirits of those ancient giants. When Jesus encounters demon-possessed people in the Gospels, the concept that demons are evil spirits roaming the earth fits perfectly with Enoch's explanation. Most significantly, the Epistle of Jude in the New Testament explicitly references those fallen angels who deserted their proper dwelling and are now kept in eternal chains. Jude 6, a clear nod to 1 Enoch's watchers. 1 Enoch painted one of the earliest and most graphic pictures of final judgment with eternal consequences. The idea of angels bound in chains until judgment day appears in both Jude and 2 Peter 2:4. In fact, the Epistle of Jude directly quotes 1 Enoch 1:9. Behold, the Lord comes with 10,000 of his holy ones to execute judgment on all. Jude introduces this quote by saying, Enoch, the seventh from Adam, prophesied saying, showing that the author of Jude considered Enoch's book genuine prophecy. I mean, he quotes it. The term Son of Man that Jesus frequently uses for himself throughout the Gospels likely draws from both Daniel and Enoch. When Jesus says, "You will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven," Mark 14:62, he's using imagery very much at home in the Enoch's parables. Early church leaders like Tertullian, Origen, and Irenaeus took 1 Enoch seriously. Tertullian even defended its authenticity, noting that the Book of Enoch had been rejected by Jewish authorities because it contained prophecies of Christ. In Tertullian's view, that made Enoch all the more precious to Christians. For a time, he considered it inspired scripture. Given its popularity, you might wonder, why isn't 1 Enoch in our Bibles today? How did such an influential book end up lost and forbidden? In the early centuries of the church, 1 Enoch enjoyed high esteem. However, by the 4th century, attitudes shifted for several reasons. By the late 1st and 2nd century, 1 Enoch fell out of favor with mainstream Jewish rabbis. Rabbinic literature is almost silent about Enoch, possibly because the rabbis actively opposed Enochic teachings as too mystical and speculative. As Christianity spread through the Greco-Roman world, knowledge of 1 Enoch's origins became hazy. Church scholars like Jerome and Augustine grew skeptical of text not in the Hebrew canon. There was likely discomfort with some of Enoch's theology. The idea of angelic sin and giants might have struck later theologians as mythical and embarrassing. By around 400 of the Common Era, 1 Enoch all but disappeared from the Western Church. Jerome, he didn't include it in the Latin Vulgate Bible. Over time, it was forgotten in the West. Only the Ethiopian Church faithfully preserved 1 Enoch in the ancient Ge'ez language, considering it inspired scripture. For over 1,000 years, 1 Enoch was effectively a banned book, not accessible or approved in mainstream Western Christianity. Imagine a book so important in early Christianity that Jude quotes it directly, yet later Christians couldn't even find a copy. It's as if a vital piece of Christian heritage was locked away. 1 Enoch didn't emerge out of nowhere. It drew on a rich imagery of older traditions. The flood and giant tales in Enoch have striking parallels with Mesopotamian mythology. The figure of Gilgamesh, a giant demigod from Babylonian epic, actually appears by name in Enochic literature. The idea of an ancient flood wiping out monstrous creatures is pure Mesopotamian lore. Enoch's portrayal of a righteous man taken to heaven has echoes of Mesopotamian legend about King Enmeduranki, a sage who was taught divine secrets. During Persian rule of Judea, Jewish thought was exposed to Zoroastrian ideas, a cosmic struggle between good angelic forces and evil demons, a final judgment separating righteous and wicked, and resurrection of the dead. Zoroastrianism features a cosmic evil being and destructive demonic forces, comparable to Enoch's tale of watchers and a future judgment by the Chosen One. By the time of Enoch's composition, Hellenistic culture was widespread. First Enoch casually uses the word Tartarus from Greek mythology to describe the prison of fallen angels. The Watchers are much like the Greek Titans, divine beings who rebelled and were imprisoned. Similarly, the half-angelic giants of Enoch are akin to the giants of Greek myth. 1 Enoch is a beautiful example of cultural syncretism, blending Near Eastern and Mediterranean mythic elements into a unique theological vision. It's Jewish at heart, rooted in Hebrew Bible ethics and monotheism, but explores things the Hebrew Bible only hints at cryptically. After being effectively erased from Western Christianity, 1 Enoch lived on quietly in Ethiopia. The story of its rediscovery is an adventure in itself. In the 1760s, a Scottish explorer named James Bruce traveled to Abyssinia, Ethiopia. In 1773, Bruce returned to Europe with 3 copies of the Ethiopic Book of Enoch in Ge'ez. Finally, in 1821, the first English translation of 1 Enoch was published by Richard Lawrence. Imagine the excitement. After 1,400 years, Enoch speaks again. In the 20th century, the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, 1947, brought Aramaic fragments of Enoch to light, confirming the book's antiquity and importance at Qumran. Today, 1 Enoch is studied openly as part of the pseudepigrapha. Modern scholars like James Vanderkam and George Nicholsberg have produced massive commentaries on it. As Nicholsberg noted, 1 Enoch may have been lost for centuries, but it now occupies a central position in the study of ancient Judaism and Christian origins. It's still revered in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church as canonical scripture, the only traditional Christian denomination to include it in their Bible. The story of 1 Enoch is a cautionary tale of how religious history can take wild turns. A text can be passionately embraced in one era, then suppressed and nearly erased in another, only to be resurrected by scholars centuries later. It makes you wonder, how might Christianity be different if 1 Enoch had remained in our Bible? We might have grown up hearing Sunday sermons about Shemi-Hazah and Azazel, or lessons on the fall of the Watchers alongside Adam and Eve. But let's consider something deeper. When mainstream Christianity rejected 1 Enoch, it wasn't because early Christians suddenly developed a distaste for the mythological or supernatural. After all, the New Testament itself contains plenty of mythic elements. Satan fighting over Moses' body in Jude, cosmic battles in Revelation, angels appearing to humans, and numerous miraculous events. This raises profound questions about how we understand ancient religious texts. Did the authors of 1 Enoch literally believe giant angels once mated with humans? Or were they like many skilled storytellers throughout history, using vivid mythological imagery to convey deeper theological truths? We rarely question whether Homer truly believed in the gods of Olympus, or if Mesopotamian scribes literally thought Gilgamesh was 2/3 divine. Yet, with Jewish and Christian texts, we often assume ancient authors must have believed every supernatural element as literal history. Perhaps 1 Enoch's authors understood they were crafting theological fiction, vivid stories that illustrated their understanding of evil's origin and divine justice. I mean, Enoch didn't write this book, so whoever did assumed they were Enoch. That might be a giveaway. The loss of 1 Enoch caused Western Christianity to forget a key piece of its own heritage. The narrative of angels breeding giants became folklore when it was once mainstream theology. Beyond the entertainment value of its wild stories, First Enoch offers a profound lesson. Religious ideas evolve, and what counts as scripture can change dramatically. Texts move between categories of inspired truth and mere mythology, depending on who's doing the categorizing and when. Enoch, the seventh from Adam, supposedly wrote down these incredible visions and pleaded for angels and humans alike. His book was buried and then reborn. There's triumph in sharing this with you. It's like rescuing a lost piece of our collective story. Now, we have rediscovered First Enoch, and its shocking tales of wayward angels, giant monsters, cosmic secrets, and a visionary hero speak to us again. They transport us to a time when the boundary between heaven and earth was porous, and the struggle against evil was writ large on cosmic canvas. Enoch walked with God and was not, for God took him. His book too vanished for a long time, but now it's back, challenging us to reconsider the biblical world in all its depth and wonder, and to question our assumptions about how ancient people understood their own sacred stories. Stay tuned for our next episode of Banned, Lost, and Forgotten Scriptures as we continue to uncover the hidden gems and shocking truths that shaped religious history. Be sure to subscribe, hit the bell, so you don't miss our exploration of these ancient mysteries. Remember, what's lost can sometimes be found again, shining light on truths long suppressed. Until next time, this is MythVision. Keep imagining, keep exploring, and keep seeking those lost visions. Consider joining our Patreon to help support us. We could really use your help, and you'll gain early access. You become part of the family. And also, I interview academics on an occasional basis and get to ask you a question of yours to the scholar and record that as its own video. It's a still. Join the family, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.